Here we are on an ordinary day, on an ordinary block in downtown Manhattan. Nothing much going on. Unless you look closely. And then you discover there are a whole lot of people on this block who just happen to have cameras. Like him, and him, and him, and them, on the chance that this man, John F. Kennedy Jr., who lives in the neighborhood, might just come out and do, well, anything. This is paparazzi video of Kennedy earlier this winter, about to leave for the inauguration in Washington. He tries for a little privacy. And now he's going to wait for his wife, Carolyn Bessette Kennedy. The Kennedys know that some of these camera people have cars and may try to follow. So once Carolyn is inside, Kennedy will try for the quick and surprising getaway. Watch this. He backs up the wrong way on a one-way street and then swings backwards into an intersection. Right in front of a cop. See the guy in the cap? Who leans in and says, "What's going on here?" So now the camera folks have a confrontation, which is even better. Kennedy tells the cops, "They're bothering us." But the cop says, no, they can take photographs. It's okay. So they do. So here's 5 people, counting the paparazzo who took the video, all of them focused on the Kennedys. Sometimes there are as many as 10 on the block. Celebrities now call them stalkerazzi, and they're on the street to make money. The base rate for a John Kennedy photo, ordinary shot, is about $150. But something slightly interesting, say Carolyn cleaning up after the dog, $500.
The Big Apple has some dirt on JFK Jr.
A gotcha picture, John Kennedy dumping his personal trash in a public garbage can? Well, Extra wouldn't tell us, but the Globe paid at least $1,000. And a truly private moment, John screaming at Carolyn last year, that price is so amazing, we'll talk about it later. But it is enough to send John Kennedy out into the street to take his own pictures of the paparazzi's license plates. And of course, it's not.
Some of the most hotly pursued celebrities have decided they've had enough of the paparazzi invading their privacy, and they're attacking the problem head-on. Correspondent Robert Krulwich reports John Kennedy Jr. is now trying to run interference for his new bride.
So I just asked any, privacy and room you can give her if she makes that adjustment. Would be greatly appreciated.
John Kennedy has lived his life in the camera's eye. But in October 1996, just after his honeymoon, the press frenzy is at its peak. He hopes to make a deal. We'll stand here, pose, answer your questions, and then you go away.
Hey, little John's on the way. Little John.
You can see how well that worked. The new Mrs. Kennedy is too tempting a target. Though the couple kept their wedding private, Carolyn is getting her first taste of what John inherited with his family name. His mother, Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, had her own paparazzo, the most famous of them all, Ron Galella. He followed her at close range for 4 years till she got the courts to grant her a 25-foot zone of privacy for herself, 30 feet for the children, and later when Galella violated that space...
I faced 7 years in jail, $120,000 fine. So rather than yield to those, I gave my rights to photograph her. I agreed to not photograph her forever. Not just her, but the 2 children.
John and his sister Caroline have gotten somewhat used to the coverage.
I mean, I think that, we're used to a certain degree of being watched, and I think that you're aware of it, even if you're not consciously aware. And I understand that there's interest, and certainly that interest has...
It's not interest, it's obsession, John.
Well, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Has given both of us great opportunities, so I can't complain too much. Sometimes I wish it wasn't always that way, but then you wouldn't have invited me on your show if, I was just somebody
I might have, John, you never know.
But sometimes even John Kennedy strikes back. In Hyannisport one summer, he took a bucket of water and dumped it on a paparazzi's head. Can a guy do his job? Can a guy have a life? This winter, he confronted his most persistent nemesis, a pair of photographers who took those embarrassing pictures a year ago, which they sold for $250,000. They show Kennedy and Carolyn Bessette fighting in the park. Angie Cochran and Ken Katz, you can see them behind the tinted glass of their stakeout van, have found John Kennedy so lucrative that they hound him the way Galella hounded Jackie. Just before Christmas, Kennedy told them to stop. He walked up to Angie in her stakeout van. You're watching paparazzi video here. First, John talks to her. Then he jumps on the hood of the car and reaches through the window to grab her keys. Angie rolls up the window on his arm. Carolyn tries to pull him away. And in the end, they got no privacy. They got this.
Why'd you use the phrase JFK goes berserk?
We could have had a headline that says very interesting pictures of JFK inside. Is that going to sell us newspapers? No. You could have had a headline on your show that says, you know, Dick Morris gives a warm and candid interview. You don't do that. It's salesmanship. And on top of that, JFK did go berserk.
And against the power